Hello and welcome to lesson 1 in this Python series of videos. This is focused on the IGCSE Computer Science course, which is up for examination for the first time in May-June 2023. This is the CAIE course, of the Cambridge course, and course syllabus is 0478. Now, this series of videos is focusing on the different skills that students need to develop in Python. You'll be able to see that I already posted some other videos on this channel for kind of lesson 5 and 6. And I'm re-recording the older videos which I had previously posted on another channel, just to make sure that any students of mine or students following this video are able to demonstrate all of the different concepts which you can kind of see in front of you. These concepts have been taken directly from the 0478 Computer Science syllabus. And I'm just going to briefly talk to you about what's kind of expected of you as a student at IGCSE. So you need to be able to use different data types, so different data types which are kind of mentioned here, so integer, real, char. If you're using Python, we're going to be having a look at float, we're looking at integer, we're looking at string, but we're also looking at Boolean, so how do we use Boolean data types as well. And I think probably the most important point here is how could we make use of a Boolean data type within something like a while loop. Other things which you're meant to be able to do in Python, or you're meant to be able to program in Python. So we're mainly using if statements, so we don't have case in Python, so we're using if, elif, and else. And then we get down to the newer part of the syllabus here. So the skills which you're meant to be able to demonstrate here is how we can use upper and lower as a function to validate different data which is being entered against a variable, and also for numbers as well. And also moving on to file handling with the new syllabus as well. So you're meant to be able to demonstrate how you can write data to a file, how you can read data to a file, and how you can append information. Now, I'm not going to walk you through these syllabus points here. If you don't have access to these lesson slides and you're not one of my students, obviously do drop me a message underneath this video. Or if you're a teacher and obviously want access to this, just send me a message. I'm going to skip over the first couple of things inside these slides. So this is basically the concepts. And I'm going to move on to where we begin this course. So what are variables and constants? What's a data structure? And what do you need to be able to do as part of lesson number 1? Now, first things first is we need to be able to identify the difference between a variable and a constant. And for those of you which are kind of new to programming or new to computer science, when you think of a variable, think of it like a box. If you're asked a question, for example, what's your name? When we answer that question, the piece of data, which is our name, right? My name is Rob. That's a piece of data which we're going to place into our box. So think of a variable like an empty box. It's where we're going to put a piece of data, and it's where we're going to store it temporarily against, and in this case, a variable called name or first name or last name. Okay, now with variables we can store one piece of information, not one character. We can store one piece of data that is entered inside a program. Now when we're setting up our variables, the most important thing, especially for 0478 computer science, is that all of our variables have meaningful names, and we're going to look at that in a moment. Now the next thing here is we have constants. So constants are just like a variable, but the piece of data which is against the constant, or let's say inside our box in this scenario, it always remains the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to head across to this REPL program here, and I've put a link to this underneath the video, right? So this is going to print a statement saying hello computer scientist, and it brings us straight onto kind of variables here. So on line number 4, this is an example of a variable. When we run this program, it's going to give us a print statement saying, hello, welcome computer scientist, and it's asking us to enter a piece of data, which is going to be stored against first name. And in order for this to work, we have to use the input function, and then a print statement to prompt the user, enter your first name so they know what data to enter here. If I write in Trevor, because everybody loves a Trevor, if I press enter, what's going to happen now is we're going to have a print statement, and it's going to use the piece of data which was entered against first name, and it should say, good to meet you, and plus that piece of data which is Trevor. Now, moving down to our next variable here, line 4 and line 6 are different because what we're doing here is we're setting the data type at the beginning of our variable here. So the variable last name, and then we've said str. So str stands for string. String allows us to enter ABC, 1, 2, 3, as well as symbols. And we've got input and our prompt statement again. Now, actually, we don't need to put str here because Python defaults to string automatically. But this is so you can see where to put that data type. If I enter my last name, and my name is not Trevor or Donaldson, but there we go, it's then going to ask me for my age. And we can see here that another variable, but now we've got this other data type, which is called int. And if you look back to the syllabus, we need to be able to use different data types. So int stands for integer. This is a whole number. If I enter anything other than a whole number here, it's going to error. So I'm just going to enter 21. And what that allows us to do is make sure users, we're validating, right? We're making sure that users are using the correct data type against different variables that we set up. Okay, so I'm forever 21. Now I'm going to press enter here inside my console window. And then it's saying, can you enter your weight? And float is a decimal base value, so it's going to allow me to enter something like 60.2. Yep, I don't weigh very much, apparently. Okay, so I am 60.2 kilograms, and float's allowing us to use a decimal base number. So this is your very, very first lesson on kind of variables and constants, and also data types here. So I'm going to go back over to our lesson 1 slides, and you'll be able to see that, you know, this video here is to support your kind of learning. This is a video which I've recorded here. I'm replacing this with a newer video. And once you've been over kind of like variables and constants and print statements, you're then going to be asked to look at loops and if statements. And again, there's another video to support you with this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down to line number 9 inside this first lesson 1 program. And this is where you're going to be introduced to for loops and kind of while loops. Now, this is an introductory video on programming in Python. Hopefully this makes sense to those of you which are watching it, and I'm going to continue from this point in our next video.